religiosity that was once at the heart of England, of Britain. Can England ever be England without its long history of religiosity as the country becomes?
Isn't religiosity a pejorative word? I don't know. Perhaps so. Not for me to say what the future may bring, but I think that so much of the society of civilization which we have, which we had achieved by 1914, was dependent upon the Christian religion, and indeed of widespread knowledge and acceptance of it in the public mind. That once those things go, then the civilization can't be sustained. It's interesting looking at the buildings, the great buildings of justice in London, both the law courts in the Strand and the Old Bailey. You'll find they're full of Christian imagery. The same goes also for the Houses of Parliament. Most people don't realize, for instance, that the chimes of Big Ben are based upon the air in Handel's Messiah, "I know that my Redeemer liveth." The whole Gothic structure of the building, and the murals of saints and all the rest of it is, and the fact that it is at the bottom of it, there is still a chapel beneath St. Stephen's. It emphasizes the Christian nature of our national foundation, which I suppose you could say in some ways goes back to King Alfred. And if that is gone, then what is our society founded upon exactly? What is it that we believe is what is our measure of right and wrong? Without that, we don't have one, in my view. And what is the source of authority? By what power do our leaders rule? Well, they say they rule by the authority of the ballot box, but the polls get lower and lower. The parties become less and less representative and weaker and weaker. The elections are more and more lifeless and dishonest, with less and less of what the future government is going to do actually even discussed. How much legitimacy do they actually have, and can the ballot box continue to provide it? And if people cease to believe in the legitimacy of the ballot box, where do they turn instead?
The point you made about what we cohere our culture around, what used to be widespread acceptance of the Christian story being at the heart of our civilization, I suppose it's fair to say that we've been living under an attempt to institute multiculturalism, and people who complain about multiculturalism not being very good can often be told to be retrograde, that they're trying to protect something for their own interests. But what I've noticed that is quite interesting in the social commentary of more prominent British ethnic minorities like Rakib Ehsan, for example, who is a social cohesion researcher. He's Muslim, and he said that he would much prefer to live in a Britain that championed its Christian heritage than one that tried to be all things to all people. And that would be something he could get around.
I speak to Muslims from time to time who say the same thing. They would rather this was a more Christian country than it is, than a less Christian country. And that is the case, and I quite understand that. I mean, I have lots of disagreements with Islam, but I find also that it's more possible often to discuss the more profound things in life with faithful, serious Muslims than it is with secularists, because they have considered the great, deep subjects of how the world is and what its purpose is, that are generally left unconsidered in a secular, selfish world. But the less Christianity there is, I think the less welcoming the environment is for members of other religions as well.
Well, staying on Christianity, and I might have got the link all wrong here, but a few years ago I saw an interview with you, and you said, this is paraphrasing, and I know you'll put me right if I get it wrong, but
I will.
You said that there was nothing good in this temporal world. What did you mean by that?
Well, I kind of said nothing good. I said you'd have to point me to the actual passage. What I do think is that there's no temporal hope, because there isn't.
What do you?
My hope is entirely in eternity. There's nothing to hope for in the temporal world. It will let you down. It's full of despair. And without the eternal, then we're lost. Everybody knows who has any experience of it, for instance, that there is no justice, even in societies which claim to have advanced and civilized judicial systems and proper courts and all the rest of it. Justice is incredibly elusive in actual human life. And yet we have within us, in my view, along with conscience, such a ferocious desire for justice that I will always say it's one of the main reasons for believing in the eternal and in God is that if you want justice, you're not going to find it in the temporal world. You're only going to find it in the eternal. Therefore, there must be eternity for there to be justice. But there are lots of good. There's a lot of good done in the temporal world. There are good things to be done, good things to be seen and experienced. But that's not quite the same as saying there is hope. And the novels of Dickens are in many cases almost astoundingly superb. But then Dickens's own personal life was so appalling that you have to wonder how a man who treated his own wife so badly could have written so beautifully, and yet it is so.
Yes, this seems to be, I don't know how much of a common theme it is, but when you get into the biographies of great writers or artists like Caravaggio or writers like Dostoevsky, that you find there are skeletons in their closet, and I suppose some people look back at them and say it's because of the depths to which they've gone that they're able to understand human nature and look it unblinkingly in the eye.
I don't think any of us would want our biographies written by somebody else after we were dead. I mean, it doesn't tend to work out well. Very few of us have lived lives of blameless beauty. And
no, none.
I say very few out of caution. I think the word none might be better.